Welcome back to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel, where you get daily and consistent hot topics in music, entertainment, reality TV, and more. And the more has to do with some reality TV recaps, also some other videos that I've been meaning to edit. But you know, when the breaking news happens, you have to go live and take care of it. Well, this is not breaking news. We're going to do a Real Housewives of New York recap. I decided to do one today because tomorrow we're going to cover a lot other stuff, but also people have been asking my thoughts on this latest episode of the Real Housewives of New York. Let me remind y'all, I may be black, but I'm not the black representative. Just an FYI, I speak for myself here on the platform, but I do think it's an important conversation for us to have. But there are a lot of things in this episode that we need to talk about. But before we get into that, let me just remind my folks in TikTok that are watching, head on over to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel. We're live there. We're also live on Facebook, The Kempire on Facebook, Kempire Daily on Facebook, Kempire Radio Network on Facebook. Let me make sure I got my drink. Got a few things, make sure everything here is good. Shout out to everyone that's already in the chat. Appreciate everyone being here. I have posted the link for everyone to call in and share their thoughts on this latest episode of the Real Housewives of New York. Hold on one second, y'all. Just give me a second. Just want to make sure. Look, I had to turn my fan on. It's warm. Why is it so warm? It was freezing the other day here in New York. Now it's warm. But anyways, we will get into this latest episode. But before we get into the depths of what happened towards the end of the Real Housewives of New York, let's just get into what transpired yesterday. If you followed the Kempire Daily YouTube channel, then you saw a clip from Eboni K. Williams, a live that she did on her Instagram. And she sort of let us know what we could probably expect from this episode, and that she would be taking a 2-week social media break because she knows how people are going to react from this episode. So we're going to get into that. Let me just play for you a little bit of what Eboni said. Hold on one second. Let me share my screen. TikTok, if you would like to see what we're talking about, head on over to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel. That way you're able to see the clip, but you can also hear it. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me remove myself. There we go. Hold on. Let me hit play.
Excited. I'm on live and I'm just coming to you from a really vulnerable place, y'all, so bear with me. I want to let you know that tonight, after tonight's episode, I'm not going to be saying goodbye, but I'm going to be saying see you later by way of social media for about 2 weeks. Tonight's episode and next week's episode are really intense and really important. I really want to stress that they're really important episodes, y'all. And I want you to lean into them, and I want you to watch them. And I want some of y'all to watch them multiple times. I think tonight will be the 4th time I'm seeing tonight's episode. So yeah, do that. Lean into tonight and next week's episode in particular. And stay with us throughout the rest of the season, because as I've said on Instagram post recently, this season is different. Yeah, for those of you saying it, it's different this season. You're right. We're in a pandemic. We're in the middle of the most dynamic call to action around racial reconciliation, certainly in our generation, and we're in the heartbeat of it all in New York City. So we're doing a heavy lift here. And I'm not doing it by myself. I'm doing it with my castmates and with the support of our network. And with the support of many of y'all. I mean, I got on here 2 seconds ago. There's almost 500 people here. So I do feel the love, and I want y'all to know that. I see you, and I know that you see me. But the reason I'm taking this social media break for the next 2 weeks is because I want to leave y'all to yourselves to have discussion and debate and conversation around what you're going to see tonight, you know, what you're going to see next week. And I guess I'm going to pull a Naomi Osaka and pull back to protect my peace. Because I know a lot of that conversation and discussion is going to be rich and dynamic and important and productive. And a lot of it's going to be some bullshit. And y'all know who you are. Some of y'all Probably not anybody I'm talking to here, but some of the people that live on social media and live to make other people's life a terror and a horror, and they just like to show up as assholes and trolls. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. And I won't be a part of it, and I want to veil myself to it. So I'm going to take a little break, a little beat, work on my prayer, work on my situation spiritually, and I will be back. And when I come back in a couple of weeks after next week's episode, I look forward to engaging with y'all, as I always have and always welcome debate and conversation and discussion and connection. It's my life's work. Y'all know that. And this is not, I want to be really clear about tonight and next week, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. This ain't about Team Eboni or Team fill in the blank other housewife. That's bullshit. I want y'all to reject the knee-jerk reaction you might have around that. Okay? This is about leaning in, listening, making space for the ability to sit with someone else's pain, even when you don't understand it. So I love y'all. I'm not gonna harp on it too much. In about exactly an hour from now, I want y'all to tune in, put your TVs on Bravo, watch the episode, sit with it, talk about it amongst your friends, your children, your family, your significant others, your sisters. This is a show ultimately about fucking sisterhood, y'all. And I will say, spoiler alert, what happens tonight and what happens on next week's episode is the foundational bedrock to an ability for me and this group of women to develop a true sisterhood. And if you believe in authenticity of relationship and shared humanity and sisterhood, this is what the fuck we're talking about. All right? I love y'all.
I'm going to need her not to cuss on my YouTube channel, though. Come on. No, I know a lot of people are wondering why Eboni K. Williams decided to make an announcement about her taking a social media break. It's because people are going to wonder, why are you not responding to the response to these next two episodes? And I get why she decided to take a social media break, because the Housewives franchise in itself, the fandom, the Bravo fandom, is on another level. Why do you think these housewives are paid so much? It's because they bring in a lot of viewers, they bring in a lot of advertisers, they bring in a lot of attention. And I get why she decided to take a social media break. I wish I could take a social media break, but this is my business. Lord. But I wanted to have the conversation. But before we get into why she decided, I'm glad she did this video before the episode, because I think, especially as a Black person or anyone that is Black, I think we needed a warning. Bravo didn't give us the warning. Eboni K. Williams gave us a warning about what we were about to experience in this episode. And I think everyone should watch it if you haven't. And I'm looking forward to next week's episode. But I'm just going to say this. I told y'all, I don't remember where I told y'all. I don't know if I said it on TikTok or if I said it on here during a recap. The conversation that Luann and Eboni had a couple of episodes ago in Ramona's home when they were in the bedroom, and she was talking about how triggering when Ramona said the help was to her. You could see Luann that was very uncomfortable talking about it. You could see the uncomfortability of Luann. So I was like, Luann, I'm watching you. But we already know it with Luann. Luann was the very first one talking about class and things like that. But look, before we get into the full-on episode, and specifically those last maybe like 10 minutes, and I know I know how you guys feel about me talking about Leah. We're going to go there. We're going to go there because she keeps proving my point. Leah keeps proving my point. But before we get into that, I listened, because I had homework. I listened to Heather's podcast. I know this is from last week's episode. I want to get all this stuff out of the way before we jump into what we really need to talk about. And I see we have quite a few callers on the line. I want to hear everyone's opinion, and I want everyone to share their uncensored opinion. The only way that we're going to learn is by having these conversations. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. But before we get into the conversation or this Real Housewives of New York recap, we have almost 150 people in the room. Like this video. It's an easy and free way of supporting the channel. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. You're getting daily and consistent hot topics in music, entertainment, reality TV, and more. We've already posted a couple of videos today, both here on YouTube and also on my TikTok. So if you want minute-by-minute updates, be sure to follow and subscribe. Okay. So I did some homework. I listened to Leah's podcast with Carol Ratzitwell, as Luann called her. But I felt like the conversation, a lot of people that listened to it before said it was actually I couldn't hear. Stop it. Really, Siri? Come on, mind your business. Technology today, y'all. But no. So I listened to it. It wasn't as bad as Leah was making it seem. But I will say, though, Heather does say there were harder substances that came out when they were in St. Bart's. But Heather is standing, even this episode, Heather is standing by, this was my experience. I should have every right to share my experience. I mean, she does, but at the same time, could it be throwing people that you thought were your friends under the bus? But she also confirms that the friendship that she thought she had with Luann really wasn't a friendship, because when she was not on the show anymore, she didn't see Luann. I think we already know Luann is what we get with Luann. So the podcast, though, I thought was actually very, very good. It was entertaining. Will I be listening every week? Probably not, unless it's related to the Real Housewives in New York. I'm going to be honest with you. I like Heather. I think Heather is a smart businesswoman. I like the little tidbits that she gave us about RHONY, and I would look forward to more of that. I even liked Carol. It made me like Carol again, because, I've been on the fence with Carol. Like back and forth with Carol. But I thought it was a good thing, and I don't think it was as bad as Leah made it out to be, especially because it had nothing to do with Leah. But I think I know why Leah was so triggered, because Carol actually brings up Leah in this episode and pretty much says she feels that Leah was age shaming the other women. But she also said that, watch people turn this into something else on in the media. I don't think what Carol said was bad. She was just pointing out something that we all agree. Leah is problematic. I'm joking. Okay. Leah's not problematic. Leah is annoying. Leah getting hair and makeup. Look, I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to give it to Eboni too. I like to be on time. You ladies getting hair and glam for a lunch. I get you're on TV, but you're way too self-aware. The whole makeup part, I was like, come on. And I'm a stickler for time. Y'all are late and we're trying to go somewhere. That would have annoyed me too. But Leah using the excuse of her grandmother, and I get it. Look, that's real. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. I think her grandmother may have passed already. That loss is real, but Leah is not real. I feel like even Leah's tears in this episode, I was looking for a tear. Couldn't find a tear. I was like, where? I thought she was crying. No, I feel like it's forced, faked, and phony. But I don't have to keep pressing the idea of Leah. But there's more about Leah in this episode that we have to cover. Let me open up my notes because I'm all over the place. So as I said before, I listened to Heather's podcast, but Ramona also asked Leah to stop talking so much about sex. And look, I think there could be a healthy balance of having conversations about sex and it be fine. The problem with Leah is that she's so vulgar with it. And I am nobody's prude. But I'm also not someone that's here talking about like, oh, this and that and this body part. And amongst the ladies, I can see them having that conversation in the privacy of Ramona's home or in Luann's home. But they showed us a flashback of Leah being just as crass at a public restaurant with Ramona's daughter. Yes, Ramona's daughter's old enough. She's grown. But you're also at a public restaurant. Like, have some coof. Just saying. Or is that just me? Like, I could be, maybe I am a prude. I can't believe I'm defending Ramona. But it is what it is. I decided to defend her for this. But I do think they can still have conversations about sex and being sexual without being as crass. And especially if someone says to you, that makes me uncomfortable. Don't you want to respect the fact that it makes them uncomfortable? And the fact that she's saying that Ramona's the most she's having sex with this person, that person. First of all, I feel like you're slut shaming Ramona for doing it, and you're saying that you're sex positive just because she might be having sex with multiple people or whatever it may be, allegedly, doesn't mean that she wants it out in the open. You could be very sexual, but not want to put your business out there like that. There's nothing wrong with that either. My opinion. And speaking of age shaming, because as I said to you before, I listened to Heather's podcast and Carol was talking about how Leah was age shaming the ladies last season. Well, this season, she does it again when she says, okay, boomer, in her confessional about Ramona response to her talking the way that she talks. Oh goodness. This conversation continues all the way to the end, which leads to the whole fight between Eboni and Luann. But we'll get there. Can I just say how much I love Sonia? Sonia was the voice of reason this episode. If I had a gift right now to play, I wish I would. Sonia was the voice of reason this episode. Really? Sonia? Sony song? Okay. I enjoyed her though. Last week she made me laugh. This week she was the voice of reason. And what was up with Luann trying to set up Sonia with Alfredo? Alfredo was definitely more Ramona's type, and Ramona was flirting with him. Oh, the music. I can't remember with Ramona. Ramona is a mess, but I enjoy the mess that she brings to the show. But Ramona was also right that Luann and Sonia have very similar types, and that's exactly why she did not have a similar type there. But Luann, you got Garth, and I really wanted to taste that lamb curry. That did look good. They said it was good. Damn, I need to get some lamb curry. Well, let's be real. No, I don't really love lamb like that. Anyways, I'm digressing. I just want to, because I have quite a few people on the line that I want to bring up. So I just want to, okay, the male model. I was expecting more. Maybe because I did a binge watch of the last season of This Is Us. And they also did something very similar where they had a male model come and pose nude. So I was expecting more. I was expecting him to be, look, I like a real man's body. Yes, that's perfectly fine. I just was sort of like, oh, is that what we're doing? Okay. All right. They said he was impressive. All right. I just wanted to, I thought it was nice though that they had this what's the word? They were being sexual, but in a fun way. And I think that's the thing with Leah. Leah doesn't have a middle. Leah is always extreme and unnecessary. And that's where we segue. Let's get past the whole new model situation. Let's get to this lunch that they're having at Luann's. So they sit down, they have the conversation. Again, they're still talking about Leah being so crass. Ramona's not used to it. So Luann comes to Ramona's defense. It's it's the way that we were raised. We were raised Catholic. It's also the education that we received. So that sets off Eboni. Eboni is like, education. I'm the most educated woman here at the table, which is a fact. And I'll just say this before we get into the conversation, before I bring up callers. Luann was mixing up, I believe, based on the way she was defining it. She was mixing up being cultured versus being educated. And the fact is, Eboni was the most educated, is the most educated at that table. But it triggered Luann, the fact that she was being called maybe because in Luann's mind, being educated and cultured, and it means that, oh, you're saying how dare you say that you're more cultured or educated than me? She is. She is more educated than you, Luann. And that's okay. She's just stating a fact, but she was trying to make a case for the way that Leah was feeling. I can't believe I'm not defending Leah, because I'll say this before we start taking some callers. First of all, we have over 200 people in the room. Like this video if you haven't liked it already. I'll say this about the whole conversation. I think with Luann, as I said before, I feel like she was triggered by Eboni's explanation of, first of all, the fact that she said she's the most educated. And she took it as her attacking her education, saying that she's not educated. She didn't say that. And I love the fact that the Bravo producers kept on replaying the scene over and over again. It looks as if next week, though, they come to a space where they're having conversation based on what Eboni said in her IG Live. This is with the building blocks for them building an actual sisterhood. And I've said before, I like Eboni on the show. I think Eboni has brought a lot in the very first season. Some people are saying she's too scripted, and then other people are saying that, especially as a Black person showing up in the world, showing up in a world of white women, it is it's one of the ways that we show up. We have to be a certain way. As we saw in this episode where Luann calls Eboni an angry woman. And she's like, oh, I'm the angry Black woman now? And she's like, no, I'm not associating it with color. However, we literally just saw minutes before Leah blow up on all of them. She called all of them hoes. You're a hoe, you're a hoe, you're a hoe, you're a hoe. I was like, how you calling me a hoe? Oh, I can't with Leah. But that's not even the first time Leah has blown up. I don't remember people calling Leah angry. And I love the fact that Eboni pointed that out. And I think another thing that we have to keep in mind during this season was filmed in 2020 at the height of the social injustices, seeing George Floyd, 8+ minutes, almost 9 minutes, a video broadcasted around the world. People are protesting. Let me tell you one thing. I know I was, if I could be a Black Panther last year, I would have, if I could have grown an afro and it was like, power to the people. After seeing everything, after hearing the conversations, after learning more about my own history that was not taught to me in school, we were just talking about this week about 100 years since the Tulsa massacre, that people still don't know that Black Wall Street, a city in Oklahoma, was burned to the ground. Thriving Black businesses were burned to the ground. And no one talked about it for decades. There are still people not talking about it. There are still kids that do not learn this in school. And that's just one incident. That's one. This is not the first or only time this has happened in American history that we have not been taught about. It's happened multiple times. So a lot of people are wondering, why is Eboni keep bringing up race? Why is Eboni keep bringing up race? Eboni told you guys, she foreshadowed that she came on this show and she knew what she had to do. Because as I said before, this is happening in the middle of all the social injustice. Even if you weren't, the biggest advocate for Black Lives Matter before 2020, 2020 changed a lot of our opinions, saying, oh, no, I can't sit silent no more. I can't sit back no more. I need to speak up. She told us when she walked on it in her first scene with the exonerated 5 on her chest in Central Park with Leah, she told you that she has a mission and she's here to perform it. So that's part of the reason why she keeps showing up, keeps talking about it. And look, the thing is, when people tell a Black person to stop talking about race, why are you making it about race? Because when we show up in the world, that is the first thing, that is the first way, and that's the first thing that people see of us, and that's the first thing that the way that people treat us differently in the world because of our skin color. So I think people need to think about that before you tell someone not to bring color into a situation. It's a part of us. When we walk into the world, the way that we're treated, it's a part of us. All right, I'm gonna stop preaching. This is why I said I wasn't sure if I was ready to do this episode today, but here we are. We're going to do it because tomorrow I think what we're going to do is The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Family Karma. Even though I was trying to do a deep dive into Family Karma, I'm going to see if I can get that in. But either way, I'm going to watch the first episode. I'm going to bring up a couple of callers because I want to hear everyone's opinion on this, especially because, look, a Black woman's experience in this world versus a Black man's experience is very different as well. Let me point that out. So I don't want people to think, oh, look at this Black man talking about a Black woman's experience. No, I understand. It's different. It is different. All right. Let me take some callers. Oh, I'm sweating, y'all. I don't know if it's me or if it's the weather. I'm gonna bring Lonnie.
Hi, Kempire.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Girl, I was preaching for a second, but
there's so much going on like with me. So this is like, it's such a breath of fresh air to like watch you.
oh, thank you. Well, I hope things are going to get better.
It is. I made some decisions and one I recently made in the last week. So I'm actually excited.
Oh, we'll have to talk offline about that.
Yes.
And FYI, our girl Shantae. Shantae's on the line. Shantae.
Danielle.
Did you? Oh, and Danielle. Did you see Shantae's prediction from Femtaro?
No,
Oh,
I have a lot to catch up on because I there's like a lot that I've like missed.
make sure the first video that you watch is Sundays when we talk about Wendy Williams with Femtaro, and we have people call in for rapid rounds of questions. Our girl
I
Shante
actually
has a
have
bright
my
future.
reading with them tarot on Friday.
Oh,
So
we'll talk before. We're digressing. I want to
yeah.
focus. I want to focus because we could talk for hours. But
Yeah.
what were your immediate reactions to this episode of RHONY?
So I actually watched it this morning when I was like having breakfast. I mean, honestly, everything kind of like picked up at the end of the show. So it's a couple of like points on that. One, I understand Ramona in regards to like how Leah uses certain words and things like that, because I don't know, there's a lot of things like, especially when people start talking about sex, or it could be like a couple of other things. I mean, I can discuss, but in regards to Leah about the sex, like I get it, you're with your girlfriends and stuff like that, but it's just we don't really kind of get that vulgar and stuff like that with that.
Mm-hmm.
And especially out in public places, or I mean, even like when I have like my girlfriends over at my home, we don't like get into talking about the D's and the P's and all that other kind of stuff. So
Not the D's and the P's.
I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm like a prude. Like I can understand like talking about sex or whatever, but not so in your face and vulgar with that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, and a lot of times the things that she says out of her mouth makes me cringe, almost like her fashion sense.
Oh.
So it does make me cringe. So I understand how like the ladies are feeling. Like, girl, like you're constantly using like vulgarity, and it is a little much, And not to bring up age, but Luann and Ramona, they come from a different generation where you never really talk like that. But I mean, I get it. Which Leah was just like, well, Sonia, sleeps, with this guy and talks about hooking up with this guy and that. And, Ramona has her, pick of men on the Upper East Side that she like hooks up with as well, but a lot of that stuff is also done behind closed doors too. Like
but you could also talk about you could also talk about those things, but you don't have to talk about the graphic details.
Exactly. They don't go into like detail with it and talk, like I never heard like Sonia constantly talking about how her area, her woman area is with another man's area, and it's specific details in the vulgarity of the word. So for me, it's a lot. But I will say that I think that, and if you really look at Ramona's eyes, she almost did a twitch with her neck when Eboni said white fragility to her. She was just like, I mean, you would have thought like she called her, I mean, something else, like that was the most disrespectful thing, but like it triggered her. It triggered, I think, between that and calling herself the most educated person at the table, which Eboni is. I think that was an additional trigger for Luann.
Yeah.
And mind you, like you said, Luann is getting cultured in education different. Just because you speak different languages, you travel the world, things like that, that is being cultured. So it's very different, having an education and being cultured. Like I'm learning French, like that is something that's being cultured. So yes, and it's like so hard.
It is hard. We're gonna have to be buddies on that because I need to learn French. That is on my bucket list of things.
Yeah,
to do.
But I do love it. But that's being cultured, you know what I mean? And an LPN is very different from an RN. Luann, not throwing any shade or whatever or whatnot, but it is very different, So, but I also understand Eboni's point of view. Leah throws major temper tantrums, shouts, yells, curses, calls everyone a hoe.
Tiki torches.
Exactly, but she's never called angry. So that was a triggering point for Eboni. And I think if they just stopped screaming and listened to one another, they would understand everyone's point of view. But when you keep talking over one another, and that's when Heather was just kind of trying to come in, like, you guys aren't listening to each other. So this is just going to keep going around in a rabbit hole because you're not listening to each other. Each person is just trying to make their point of view, but no one's listening.
Yeah.
So it's not even any point. I never thought that I would agree with Heather because, I've never really been a big fan of her. And Sonia just is like, I'm just going to eat my lamb and just
this lamb curry was good. I want to bring some other people to join the conversation. Hey, ladies.
I can't wait to meet Danielle in person. She's coming up for my birthday.
Oh. Making plans. Look, making plans. All right. I'm just going to say this, guys. If you can keep your mics muted unless you're speaking, just so we can avoid any sort of feedback that might be going on. If you don't have feedback going on in the background, then perfect. But if you do have feedback going on, just mute your mic. That way we don't have any issues with the conversation. Danielle, thoughts on this episode? I saw that you said you were triggered a couple of times.
Oh my goodness, yes. Hey everyone. Hey Lonnie. I can't wait to get up there and be with you. Okay, so I'm going to start from my quick Google search to piggyback on some of the things Lonnie just said.
Okay.
Luann, and I'm not going to minimize by saying only, but she is only a LPN, which that shows that you only have to go to school for 1 to 2 years to be a LPN. No shade to my LPN viewers that you might have. However, Eboni did state that she got her she started undergrad at the age of 16.
Yeah.
Let's also go to the fact that that's the only education, formal education that Luann has.
Mm-hmm.
When you Google Ramona doesn't show to have any formal education.
Oh, now, damn, really? Not even college?
Not even college. Now she has said in previous seasons that she's gone to college, but there's nothing listed.
She also said she donated her plasma. Oh, never mind.
So there's a lot of things there. So yeah. But the part that resonated to me is when Eboni spoke up about the fact that Leah was able to run off, kick and scream, be a brat, and no one said anything. But as soon as Eboni tried to overtalk them as they were overtalking her, and let's be real, they were yelling because Ramona kept saying, I don't want to hit it. Like she just went off on this tangent that Ramona does. It was okay for that. And then Luann kept trying to overtalk by raising her voice. Let's be nice, but Luann was raising her voice. But as Eboni continued,
she yelled at one point though.
She did.
You don't come in my house and tell me I don't have education.
I was trying not to use the word yell. I'm trying to say just raised her voice. But as soon as Eboni raised her voice, then now she's an angry woman. And let's call the spade a spade. She's the only Black woman in that room. So yes, you are calling her an angry Black woman. Whether you said the word Black or not, you are calling this Black woman an angry Black woman.
I agree with that. Janice, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh boy, this is going to be a hard one this afternoon, Kempire. So maybe that's the real reason why you're sweating. Okay.
Oh. Well, Janice, we had a conversation in the comments where I said, "Oh, I'm gonna do RHONY tomorrow," but then I was like, based on the reaction, and then I rewatched it. I said, "You know what? Let me do it today." So I'm glad you're able to join the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm glad I am too. So for a little bit of background for you guys, I grew up in a household. Obviously, I am Caucasian, and I like that word, so we'll stick with that. My mother was very open, coming from a society where she learned to appreciate everyone. She was Scottish. She came from Means, but her father made sure that they understood people from all places and all ranks of society. My dad, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. So growing up in that kind of a household was hard, but my mom went above and beyond with myself. Growing up in Wisconsin, and I live currently in Oklahoma, so we'll get to that point.
Oh.
But growing up in Wisconsin, the most oppressed people are the Hmungs. They're a society that they're kind of outside the reaches. They're mostly in central Wisconsin and northern Wisconsin are where their communities are at. They have a great tradition. I know that's my dog. He picks.
I love it. I love dogs.
So they have a great tradition, and they tell their stories in their beadwork on like their blankets that they make.
Okay.
But they're very oppressed, and in Wisconsin, they are looked down upon because they have native fish rights. They can spearfish and all this other stuff, and so it's a really big thing for them. So now that I live here in Oklahoma, I'm actually outside of Oklahoma City. So I'm about an hour away from Tulsa.
Okay.
When I've talked to people that have lived in Oklahoma their whole life, they never knew anything about what happened in Tulsa. Nothing.
Wow.
And there are people that have gone through the school systems here, and it's amazing. So being Caucasian, I guess I have a really different view on society. It's going to sound cliche, Kempire, and I'm sorry if it does. I don't look at color. I look at the person.
Mm.
If you're a good person, you're a good person. And that's really all there is to it. Now, Luann, on the other hand, took it exactly the opposite way. And I was really kind of surprised because if you'll remember a couple of seasons ago, she did this whole thing. I'm Native American. I can do this. I can do that. I'm a minority. And now all of a sudden, she's kind of like doing this whole flip. And I don't know why. So if someone in the chat or someone on the panel that can answer that, awesome. More power to you, because I can't. I don't understand how she did that flip. You could totally tell that Sonia was completely embarrassed. She was almost trying to get under the table at one point because she just couldn't stand the conversation. Leah is another mess, okay? I get it with Leah. Her brand is married to the mob, okay?
Oh.
All right. So she hangs with that. She hangs with the culture of people that, for lack of a better term, talk street talk. And she's gotten into that habit. She talks that way with her ex, Rob. I don't know if she talks like that in front of her kids. Don't know. But, obviously she hangs with these kind of people in her life that all have that same kind of vocabulary. So Leah is going to have to learn grace. She's going to have to learn how to choose her words. And when she blew up at the picnic table, you were saying no tears. I don't think that Leah's a crier. I think that
she was
Leah
crying
is
a lot in this episode.
Yeah, I know. But so I'm going to cut her a little bit of slack because her grandmother's on her deathbed. She's not there. She doesn't know how family is kind of taking over things while she's gone. Hello, if you're that concerned, don't go on the trip. Okay. But
she's trying to make a check, though.
Exploding. Yeah, but she's exploding in ways that really she shouldn't be. Yeah. And her last one was just a flare out temper tantrum. She was tired. She's got no clue what's going on back home. And she just wanted to get out of the situation. Really, she should have done what all the other housewives do when they get in that mess. Leave and go back home.
And she literally looked like she was about to leave, and then she comes back. Because she's like, I didn't have enough camera time.
Right. That didn't make it any better. So
no, not at all. St. J, what were your thoughts on this episode of RHONY?
I really am starting to enjoy Eboni's addition to the cast. I think that when you are the only Black person on a cast full of white women, races comes up in some way, shape, size, or form, because you have different experiences than the other ladies. And I also agree with Eboni. When you're in a room with a lot of your white peers and you are the most educated, it does lead to an interesting, especially when you openly say, like, yeah, I'm the most educated person here.
No.
And Luann, while she's worldly, I guess, she lacks education. Oh, and Leah, I think Leah's trying too hard to play up being younger than the other girls. And I think that she should act a little more level-headed, because it looks weird when she's babbling about sex with people her mom's age. It just looks odd.
I want to read this comment because I think this is important to say. So let's not pretend like Eboni comes on the scene and her race is not a factor. I'm not calling these ladies racist or racially insensitive, I guess you mean. I'm just saying that she's Black and they know it. And this one, I want to kind of get back to what Janice said in regards to, and Janice, this could be a thought for you in regards to telling someone a person of color that you don't see color, it's sort of like making the person of color feel as if you don't understand that no matter where we go in the world, people do see our color and treat us differently because of that.
Oh, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And I never say that out loud because
Yeah.
for someone like myself, it's like that standard, answer. And if I remember right, there was another video that I was watching last week, and somebody said they're tired of a Caucasian person saying, oh, they have, friends of color. Well, I do, but I'm a musician, so I have to be able to interact on a respectful and educational level with all. And that's just how I go forward in my life. Do I hang with people that, for the most part, are bigots? Yes. Do I try to look past it as much as I can, depending on what level of interaction that I have to have with them? Do I try to be mightier than thou and holy and tell them, hey, you need to quit talking like that? Sometimes it depends on the situation. I personally myself don't really get involved in like jokes or anything like that demeans another culture, demeans another person. That's not my style. It's never been my style. And I understand there are a lot of Caucasian people that think the way that I do. So just like the bigots that put the people in the buckets, unfortunately, that happens in life. And I don't like it. I do try to change it. There's different organizations that I belong to where they're all encompassing of everyone. Doesn't matter if you're purple, okay? And that's just how I think. And those are the friends that I've made in Oklahoma. They all are kind of along the same value system,
And I think it's important. And the reason why I pointed it out is because I think, first of all, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts here on the panel. And I think it was important because we do, all of us see people say this, and I thought it was important for us to address it. But I do want to move on because we have quite a few people in the queue to come on and share their thoughts. Shantae, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Oh my goodness, it was a lot of things. And of course, like the fact that we were going back and forth between the difference between being cultured and educated, what that whole conversation to me, specifically from like Luann's and their side, it lacked tact, which you can lack a lot of no matter how educated or cultured you are. And I think that's what they were really showing, is that you lacked a lot of tact. You lacked, again, as I've said before, when you get overly defensive with this particular type of subject matter, because you just start saying it's like a what do you call it, word vomit. Anything and everything will come out, to the point where the more you talk, you're just sounding less and less sensible. Nothing sounds good. And at that point, it's too late to listen all of a sudden. You should have done it from that burp. Should have done it from the beginning. And I think with Luann, like I said, I can appreciate that she's, well-traveled, but here we see it again. And we've seen this in everyday life, some of us, where somebody might be highly educated and they're just maybe not pleasant to be around, or somebody who's very cultured and well-traveled, or even both. And they're less than pleasant to be around. I've experienced that a lot. So I think it was more so the tactfulness, excuse me, that was missing from that whole exchange.
Lonnie.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Danielle.
I was going to say, if we think about tactfulness, Luann has shown us every single season that she had.
Not every single season.
Remember the earlier seasons when she was going to volunteer at, I don't know if it was a school, but it was a group. It was a room full of little black girls.
Yeah. Oh my God. Was that season 1?
And that girl said she wanted to be a model, and Luann was like, "Oh, honey, you'll never be that." Like, who does that?
Luann,
exactly. And I think that these women, and this is part of the reason why I didn't want diversity on the show for what I'm getting ready to say. Just listen, hear me out.
I'm listening.
I'm with
Because
you.
these women, and I'm going to say, I'm going to use Janice's word, Caucasian. These Caucasian women have shown us how ignorant they are since season 1. And I didn't want our people mixed in with their ignorance. Now, I can say that because my grandmother's Caucasian. So I'll admit, I have it in my family. Y'all can see from my picture, I ain't all black. I got it in me. I mean, it is what it is. But I just feel like RHONY, Beverly Hills, even Dallas has shown us ignorance that we don't normally see on television. And that's why I didn't want the Black diversity piece in it. That was just for my own entertainment. Let me continue to see Caucasian women who think a higher echelon of people be ignorant, and I sit back and laugh at it.
But then we wouldn't be having these conversations that we're having right now.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm okay with it. I'm okay. With it. I'm grown
sorry.
to love Eboni on here.
Shante, pause, please.
I gotta jump off. I got a nail appointment to get to. I'm okay with Shante being on here. I mean, Shante, look at you, child. I'm gonna put you on the show. I'm okay with Eboni being on the show for these conversations, but initially, for my own ignorant entertainment purposes, I didn't want this. I just wanted to continue to watch the ignorance.
Yeah, I know. Shante, wait, what was your feedback in regards to this?
So yeah, I was gonna say, I think without the whole diversity arc that we've been on these last 2 seasons, I think it's just been performative from Bravo, because we've seen them cast shows with all black casts before outside of the Housewives franchise. They've done Blood, Sweat, and Heels. They've done Married to Medicine. So I'm thinking to myself, if they had to have, I'm sure it's a different production company, but why not just reboot Blood, Sweat, and Heels and put Eboni on that? Because, not that we still wouldn't have had the whole discussion, because like I said, the hotbed of the climate that we're in, no matter what show, you're going to have that discussion come up. But why push this black woman who really, because her and Leah don't seem like they were like buddies. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they were maybe just heavy acquaintances. So why even push these black women on a show where they half only know the person that's getting them on there or have that connection for this to come up? Because I don't doubt it's authentically coming up, but it's just so convenient and just so performative and just so. It's just
we have to remember, like I said at the top of the show, we have to also remember that this is being filmed literally in 2020 when there's social justice at all. I said to you guys, I could have been a Black Panther in 2020 based on everything that I was seeing and feeling at the time. I get why this is coming up, I've been a big advocate for them diversifying RHONY even before they started doing it. I've been saying
I always was too, but then, like I said, the more we got to see that, a lot of these were like friendships of women that have known each other for years, and it's like, okay, well, I get it, but if you have to bring somebody in some other type of pathway where they didn't really know each other authentically, regardless of who it was, it kind of, you keep having it in your mind that it's forced or seems like it's forced. So again, like, why not just reboot something like Blood, Sweat, and Heels? Why not create another black show or whatever? Because Bravo's not above it. They have an all Asian show. They have the Shahs of Sunset. They're not above casting a specific.
I'm sure they are working on something. I want to just say thank you, Marcella, for the super chat. Marcella says, please hit that like button. Kempire is the best. Love it. Thank you, Marcella. Appreciate your support of the channel. We do have over 350 people in the chat. Like this video if you haven't already. I do want to say this in regards to what Bravo is doing. Do I think it's performative? Yeah. There was a lot of performative behavior in 2020 from a lot of these big companies in regards to diversifying. But I will say this. I know in Jersey, they have over the years tried to diversify Jersey, because I know of a couple of black people that they were trying to put on the show. It just ended up not working out. And this is not me defending Bravo, because I'm very critical of Bravo all the time. Lonnie, what are your thoughts?
So I just wanted to say real quick, though, in regards to this was during a time of 2020 when there was a lot of social injustice and everything going on. So race was a hot topic on everything in 2020. But I don't think you can really portray New York without having diversity, because New York City is not just full of white women.
No.
So it is a true melting pot. Anyone who knows New York, it is women of various different ethnicities in that city. So I don't think that it is a true representation of New York City to constantly have middle-aged white women on the show. That is not a true representation of New York. That is not what New York is. So I think they needed to diversify, and I think they need to diversify it even more with the show, and letting some of the cast members that have been on there for 15, 20 years, to let them go and bring in new people. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Leah, and I don't think she really is the best fit for the show, my personal opinion.
You're gonna get an argument from me on that one.
So I think that they need to revamp a true representation of what New York City is for the show. But I understand, like, a lot of things being brought up with, you know, Eboni and being the Black woman on the show, like the token Black or whatnot, but they need a token Asian, they need a token Indian, they need a token Hispanic, because New York City is filled with Hispanics.
One thing I want to say though, I feel like Eboni was the perfect. I get why they casted her, because she's been able to get into this space with these women so easily. It doesn't feel awkward. It doesn't feel forced. Yes, there's no true relationship, which if you look at all the cities now, a lot of these relationships aren't as years of friendship like they originally were with some of these casts. So I'm okay with them not doing that, especially if they're able to find women that are going to bring it. I've been critical of adding another non-housewife, but I think Eboni is perfect. You can get rid of Leah and just bring on, Tinsley or somebody else. I can't with Leah. I want to round out this conversation because I feel like we're going to continue this conversation, because next week, this episode completes this conversation that Eboni's going to have with Luann. I do want to take a couple of callers. Guys, stay on the line so we can round this out. Hold on. Natalie, I'm going to bring you up. Hey, Natalie. Natalie? Testing.
Hi, sorry, I had my mic off.
No problem. What are your thoughts on this latest episode of The Real Housewives of New York?
Hi, well, I'm really excited that you decided to have a whole show dedicated on it, because race is very important. And although I am not an African American, and I will never know what them as a people and as a culture have gone through systemically from institutions in the United States and everywhere else, I feel like I could understand what Eboni was saying. And I also appreciated what your caller, Janice, said about, she said that she doesn't see color. And I understand that, but I mean, I'm going to school, and what we were talking about in class was, one of the problems that there's a problem with saying that you don't see color, and whether, a Caucasian person, I don't think they mean to say it, but a problem is ignoring race. And we need to see as a whole that diversity is needed, because, these women are diverse. These cities are diverse. They have different cultures and backgrounds. And I think, like I read on somebody else's channel, they said that, Eboni shouldn't be with these housewives because she doesn't belong. But I mean, they're coworkers. And if you're in a job, you're forced to get along with people that you may not like. And I think what's truly enriching as an experience is working with people, getting to know people that are not exactly like you. So that way you can hear their experiences, because we don't know what somebody goes through unless we listen to them. Like what Ramona did. I was happy that she listened to Eboni when she spoke about her domestic assistance. So I don't know. I just think Luann was in the wrong. But I don't know. It's a big touchy subject, but I think race needs to be talked about. I saw on somebody else's channel, they said, Black Lives Matter shouldn't be brought up, or, why is Eboni pulling out the race card, which I guess I can understand. But at the same time, when the presidential elections came out, those were social happenings in our country, and those were talked about without any, pushback. And when gay marriage came out, that was shown on The Real Housewives of New York. I don't remember there being any pushback then. So I don't know if it's just Black Lives Matter and people are getting uncomfortable about it. And I suggest that the women who are upset about hearing white fragility, the fact is it exists. There's no way of getting around it. And in order to become more assimilated as a people and as a nation, we need to learn about what white fragility means. It doesn't mean that you're racist, but denying that those experiences exist, denying that exists or lessening it like Luann did, it's part of the problem. It perpetuates racism by belittling the person who had that experience.
And I wish that they gave Eboni an opportunity to school Ramona on what white fragility actually is. I felt like that was a missed opportunity on their part to explain that. But look, it is what it is. Natalie, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for having me. I love you, Kempire. I try watching you all the time. You are the greatest, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oops, sorry, Natalie. Lulu, I'm going to bring you up. Hey.
Hey, Kempire.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. You?
I'm doing well. What are your thoughts on this latest episode of RHONY?
Well, I actually more than agree with the last caller. I guess you called it white fragility.
Yeah.
I call it white entitlement, where you just dismiss the struggle, everything that most Black people go through. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think I had told you already, I'm African, and over there, when I came here, did high school here, but over there I didn't know much about racism as it is here. So I always feel for you guys, my African American brothers, because your experience is different. If you didn't like, your Black experience here is unique compared to Canada. I've been to Canada, and compared to like England, it's absolutely different. It is. So I had to come here and learn all these different, different things that you go through. And of course I had to go through that. And I realized that racism is just not using the N-word, but it's systemic and things that, things that are in the system. Like, for example, I'm married to a white guy, and buying a house with me was way more than him just getting the house. Yeah. So, and then with him as well, which, he's Jewish, but I understand where for him, he's willing to learn, but he was so in his bubble. Like, all he cared about was playing golf and, and then after meeting me, it was like, oh my God, you guys go through all that? Like, yeah. And that is part of the problem. And I feel like with, what was the lady dismissing? Is it Ramona or Luann? Someone?
Luann?
Yeah, dismissing it. I felt that. It triggered that. Because that whole thing of like, it's not a big deal. Just, it's like, no, your experience and my experience are different. But the fact that some people are willing to listen and willing to, learn more about struggles, I think that's always a first step. Because usually most people dismiss it and don't, So I never really watched Housewives. I never really watched New York after Bethany left, but then when they added the lady Eboni, I started watching back again. And I do feel like, okay, I think the other caller say that, she wanted them to keep it, but no, then we can have this type of talk. Yeah, these types of conversations are, important, so that way they can be like, oh, okay, well, because most of them just go about their lives. It's not that they're racist or what, they just don't know or don't care.
They stay ignorant.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the problem, because if it's a lot of history lessons in school. So why are we in 2021 and you don't know the struggles that we go through?
Especially in 2020, when it was clear as day. There were protests around the world. Exactly. There were large companies making changes and devoting money to Black companies and causes and trying to change their own structure on how they handle race.
Right. And you know, representation matters. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you say, you know, change. I feel like most they just want to be there and think that it's all. No, it's change. Like America is changing, like it
Yeah.
or not. It's getting more brown, getting more black. It is what it is. So you have to. I mean, as sad as it is, but I mean, I understand. I'm not saying everyone is that way, but being with someone who I've had to, and thank God he's willing to listen, but he was so when I tell you he was clueless, like, oh my God, really? Is this what have you been? Like, you mean to tell me you haven't been watching the news or black people being killed? Like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah.
I applaud you, Kempire, for actually talking about this, because this is it's something we need to talk about. And the more we talk about it, the more maybe they'll get, because sometimes it's just out of fear. It's not really that they understand, but
Yeah.
they just scared, like, oh my gosh, over there. No, we can't. No. And the fact that she's more educated with that Miss LPN lady,
I know.
it's like,
Oh, let's not go for the LPS.
well, listen, I have my master's in nursing, but I used
Oh,
to be that. So, no,
Lulu.
but I used to be. I'm
Lulu, you're
not
the most
coming
educated
for
person
that.
right now.
I'm not. I am not. I used to be that, and I got to where I'm at because it's like we always have to prove ourselves more. Just like I don't want to bring politics into it. Just like Obama, he had to do so much to just because he was black, and you have to be. It's like with us, it's like we gotta like, oh my gosh, we gotta follow the rules. Because the minute, like the way they did with Ebony, oh, she's an angry. It's like you don't want that. The same way with Kamala Harris with the debate. She had to be a certain way, which when she was in Congress, you know she would go in on their necks. But when she was at that debate, she had to be like, oop, I have to be this way because then I'll be labeled that. Why is it that we always have to do that? Why can't we just be who we are without being labeled aggressive or being labeled, you know, I don't know. But anyway, listen, you're a germ for talking about this because we do need such topics. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you,
And
Lulu.
yeah, I really do. And I love you. And that's what I wanted to say is I've had firsthand experience with all this where I've had to educate someone. And it wasn't that he was that. It's just that he wasn't exposed to it.
Yeah.
And so now it's like he's so, oh my God, like feeling bad, donating to Black Lives. I'm like, yeah, you better do that.
Lulu, thank you so much. I have to round out this conversation, but I appreciate you calling. Love you right back. Thank you.
I was off today, so hopefully I can catch you again on the day that I'm off. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you for this
Thank
topic,
you.
Kempire. All righty. Bye-bye.
We have 350 people in the room. I want to round out this conversation. I'm going to bring back a couple of the callers back just so that we can round out this conversation. We're going to continue this conversation next week because this episode is not over. And I like the conversations that we're having. But I remind you in the comments, if you're watching this afterwards, let us know your thoughts, but be respectful of the panel, be respectful of each other. Do not attack each other, especially in a derogatory way. We can have these conversations so that we're all able to learn and grow. All right, I'm going to bring up Lonnie, Janice. What's going on, ladies?
I just want to like harp on to what you just said. And I want to like just give a special shout out to Diana, who definitely holds it down. And thank you, Diana, for holding it down in the chats, because I think you definitely deserve a special shout out. Yes. But I have like stressful weeks and things like that. And this channel is always like my light. Aww. So this, you know, is a platform where we can respectfully disagree, but show love to one another in the chats and not be rude, disrespectful, or have anything hateful to say. This is a fun channel. This is where we just get together to kiki and then go back to our lives. This is the time where we can just like relax and just have fun for a moment during this live. So thank you, Diana. And
thank you, Diana.
Too. But to kind of recap, I'm actually interested to see the conversation after
Yes.
The lamb dinner after the lamb stew.
I'm gonna bring up the lamb dinner. I'm so hungry.
Because she did say like this is a sisterhood, and a lot of people that have to like say, oh, but they're not really friends. But when you go through a show like this, no one else understands the dynamics of being on a show, being filmed, and having to do things with each other. And no one understands that dynamic of being on a show like Housewives. So I can understand when she does say it, there is a sense of sisterhood in that, because only you guys are going through this experience of being filmed, knowing what it's like to be criticized and, talked about, and being filmed, and everything that you say, even on a hot mic, gets exposed. So it does bring a sense of family in that aspect. But I'm interested to find out the conversations that they are going to have in regards to what happened and what was said. And hopefully they will listen to each other, and hopefully they will educate each other. And because you also have to keep in mind, this was filmed during a time where there was a lot of race talking, a lot of sensitivity in people's hearts. And it was a time where a lot of injustice was going on. So this is not like where this was filmed a couple of years ago. This was filmed during a very sensitive time in America when it comes to race. So it does come up. And because she is African American, obviously, certain things do come up, and it kind of comes into that conversation. And I think it is totally fine for it to be talked about. Maybe it's a big platform. So a lot of things that are being talked about people can be educated and understand different points of view, especially coming from someone who is African American, in regards to what Eboni is bringing to the show and educating a lot of these women like Ramona. So I think the conversation is very good. I don't think it's anything wrong with it. And I don't, think anything is wrong with her feeling. Like, everyone has their feelings. Everyone has their point of view. And I don't think that Eboni should be bashed for that. In regards to her being overly sensitive, or why is she bringing, race up? Race has been brought up many times. If you have watched Real Housewives of New York since season 1, race has been brought up quite a few times. Eboni is not the first person to have ever brought race up in this franchise. So let's stop thinking that she is the first person to ever always bring it up. So if you don't know, go back to season 1 on demand and watch. But I'm really excited. I think she's good for the show. I want my Tinsley back, because me and Tinsley, she's like a kindred spirit of mine. So in many different ways. So I hope that, she brought something to the show. Leah for me is, I think, just too vulgar for me. And maybe I am a little bit prude. Maybe I am a little bit too conservative. But to me, her outfits are vulgar. Fashion sense.
We could go for hours. She should go
to the street by Sheree's line and pick something from that wardrobe.
Oh Lord, she's lucky that we had such a serious issue to talk about this episode, or I would have went in on Leah in regards to this episode. Janice, what were last minute thoughts? Because I want to round this out, because we're gonna continue the conversation next week.
Oh, I know we are, Kempire. So thank you once again, Kempire, for having such a great platform for all of us to be able to come and talk and work as a family kind of through this, because everyone that's in the chat, even if whatever your viewpoint is, you're learning more information in this particular platform. You can then turn around and spread that to everybody that you know. And what a great way to communicate with people. I know that's Pollyanna, but
it's true.
And so, I look at my family history. I'm Scottish. So once again, my people have been oppressed we won't talk about the thousands of years that they've been oppressed. But my great aunt was one of the founders of the Scottish National Society, which they are still fighting to be declared their own country. So I understand maybe a little bit of what's going on here. I love the fact that Eboni can speak very in an educated way and very elegant. Okay. She's not going to slam it in your face until she gets to that point. I don't want to make the comparison, but you have Garcelle on the other coast who is flat out saying, I'm not going to try to educate ladies and what it is to be me. So you have two different viewpoints going on there.
I literally said that on social media today because there were so many people wanting to know my thoughts on last night's episode. And every person has a right to say, it's not my job to teach you about race. Every person has a right to say that I'm tired of trying to teach this culture, this United States of America about what's happened, things that you can Google. We have social media, we have the internet. You can Google and educate yourself. So I get where Garcelle is coming from, but I also get where Eboni's coming from, because you know what? That's what Eboni has decided to do for the show, and that's what Garcelle has decided to do for the show.
And I appreciate that. And platforms like yours, I just get to learn more and more about that culture.
Yeah.
Consider it, as a caller. For me, I am going to sit there and go, okay, what's in your background? What's in your culture? What do I learn about? What are the traditions that you have in your family? When I travel international, I'll go to some of the hot tourist spots, but more than likely, I'm going to find where where do the locals, where do they like fun and entertainment? I'm more that traveler than I am going to the highlights that everybody goes to. So I'm just different, I guess.
And it's important to be different. And I want to continue this conversation. As I said before, we're going to continue this conversation because they continue the conversation next week. If you missed out on what Eboni K. Williams said on her social media, we have posted the video here on the Kempire Daily YouTube channel. We have over 300 something people in the chat like this video. And if you're watching this live afterwards, let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And again, be respectful of everyone that called in, including myself. And let's continue the conversation. Janice, Lonnie, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you both.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. And all of the people that called in, thank you. Thank you all for the super chats, for the likes, and for your comments in the chat section. I appreciate you guys being here. Shout out to my TikTok. I appreciate you guys being here as well. We're going to continue the conversation because next week, this conversation is not over on The Real Housewives of New York. If you don't know, this is one of my favorite franchises. I'm excited to see Eboni be a part of the show, but I'm also excited about her challenging these women to think outside the box that they've been living in. And as I said before, I don't represent the entire Black race. I don't represent Black men. I don't represent Black women. I can only tell you my experience and what I've educated myself on and what you all should be educating yourself on if there's something that you don't know. But we all learn together. And if we're respectful of each other, you're going to get more out of that. If there's anything that we learned from this latest episode of The Real Housewives of New York, the ladies were not listening to each other. And I think they probably could have gotten further in that conversation if they had listened to each other and not called someone angry. Luann, we're looking at you, but I'm interested to see the journey Luann goes on in this next episode. But as I said to you guys before, let's continue the conversation in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this last minute live where we're talking about the latest episode of The Real Housewives of New York. I'm excited to see what else the season is going to bring. And I'm excited about Brashawn Shaw coming on the show. I call her Brashaw. I know she probably doesn't like it, but I think it's a great combination of both her names. But Brashawn is supposed to be coming very soon. I want to see what element she adds to the show. But as I said before, we have over 300 people in the chat. Be sure to like this video and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you to everyone for the super chats. Shout out to my mods. First of all, shout out to all of my mods. But Diana, look, she's right. Shout out to Lonnie for reminding people. Diana holds it down. And if anything, to the other mods, just take note from what Diana is doing in the chat. Thank you, Diana. Thank you to all of the mods. Thank you to everyone that supports the channel. The channel is growing. Look, journey to 100,000. I'm just going to put it out there. Journey to 100,000 is right around the corner. You got to speak what you want into existence. And I hope that you guys will do the same for yourselves. And I'll see you guys very soon.